Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our webinar this afternoon is the next generation Netezza system, and TechD in partnership with IBM is excited to show you the latest and greatest offering from Netezza, as well as IBM's new enterprise insights platform, Cloud Pak for Data. Joining us today are Bob Reno and Jacqueline Rudolph, who are Cloud Pak for Data and Netezza Performance Server technical specialists with IBM, and they'll be taking us through the presentation. A little bit about TechD, just as an introduction. We're a premier IBM business partner out of Wayne, Pennsylvania. We're trusted experts in data. We specialize in the entire life cycle of data. So collecting, organizing, analyzing, and infusing your data with AI and insights to make better business decisions. We have a long history and partnership with IBM. We're very grateful for that and our clients, and we're excited with the opportunity to show you more. Today we're focusing on Netezza and the Cloud Pak for Data platform, but also just some other capabilities, things we can help you out with, expertise we have, clients we're working with on a variety of the IBM platform around data analytics with Cognos and planning, data governance with Watson Knowledge Catalog, data management with DB2, Data Stage, Netezza, and Stream. So, just a little bit about us. We're excited you're here. We're excited to show you what we've got today and to speak with you more following today's session. If you do have any questions, there should be a Q&A button in the module where you can post your question, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. With that, I'd like to introduce Bob and Jacqueline, who'll be taking us through today's presentation.
All right. Well, thank you, Brad. Let me get my screen going here. Okay. All right. Well, like Brad said, my name is Bob Reno, and I'm a technical specialist in the IBM's Data and AI group. And with me, I also have my colleague and teammate, Jacqueline Rudolph. And today we are going to talk to you primarily about the next generation Netezza appliance called the Netezza Performance Server. But we need to set the stage a little bit. It's because where Netezza fits is in a little bit of a broader area. So we're going to take a few minutes to set that stage. And Jacqueline's going to help with that after a minute here. And then I am going to jump in and give you all the great details about the new next generation Netezza that we're really excited about. And we're going to start off with a discussion about enterprise insight platforms. So enterprise insight platforms are really a movement that we've saw revolving around a class, these class solutions. They call it EIP for short. And really what they are is they're unifying platforms that allow for like integrated experiences across different technologies. In this case, different data technologies, collecting and organizing information. And the idea is to help streamline complexity, as complexity inhibits speed. And it's really to bring end-to-end insight to your data. So the key here is that IBM's a key player in this movement. So if you hear talk about enterprise insight platforms, I just know that IBM is truly a part of that conversation. Now, as many of you know, IBM purchased Red Hat, and the deal closed last year. And we've been working hand in hand with them, taking a lot of insight from their processes and their technologies. And we're starting to see some of the benefits of that, especially in Red Hat's use of open source technologies and areas that we can incorporate that help IBM's own platforms. In this case, specifically with Netezza and the hybrid platform we're going to talk about called Cloud Pak for Data. And we're using these technologies like Red Hat OpenShift to, not only in the next generation Netezza system, but also this platform, Cloud Pak for Data, that really we've seen customers ask for. So with that, I want to hand it over to Jacqueline, who's just going to spend a couple minutes talking about the Cloud Pak for Data system and Cloud Pak for Data and what it is. And then we'll get into how the next generation Netezza Performance Server integrates and leverages that platform and the advantages that you see. Jacqueline, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Bob. So he introduced me in the beginning, but my name is Jacqueline Rudolph. I'm also a technical specialist at IBM in the Data and AI group. And as Bob said, I'm going to talk a little bit about Cloud Pak for Data. So first off, I like to think of Cloud Pak for Data as really two primary pieces. And we're going to start with this bottom piece here. So as Bob mentioned before, we had our Red Hat acquisition. So with that, we've brought on Red Hat OpenShift, which is Red Hat's containerization platform. So we really brought that to the IBM technology stack. Red Hat is an industry leader here. It's been really foundational to enterprises as they modernize their AI stack, but also including their EDW stacks as well. There are a ton of benefits that come with containerization. I'm sure some of you know a little bit about that, but one of the key benefits that I just want to highlight here in terms of Cloud Pak for Data is portability. So it really gives you the flexibility to move from, on-prem to cloud to different multi-public clouds and back and forth. And that's really what Cloud Pak for Data is all about. It's about achieving that flexibility and modernization, and it really leverages that Red Hat OpenShift to do so. Then the second pillar, so moving on top to that IBM containerized software piece, that's really the modernization for all of our functionality. Yes, Netezza, which we're going to go into in a lot more detail in a little bit, but also that encompasses the rest of our enterprise software across the board. It's been containerized, it runs pre-integrated on this platform, and it gives us that extensibility that I mentioned to all of our different data and AI services. And now I'm going to talk a little bit on the next slide about that top layer and some more of its specific capabilities. So I'm not sure if anyone here has heard about the AI ladder, maybe parts of it or full or maybe not at all, but it's IBM's prescriptive approach to accelerate our journey to AI. So what does that mean? Essentially, it's the process that helps clients take the steps they need to create that successful information architecture, to really utilize their data, get all the value out of it that they possibly can, and to drive digital transformation in their business. So Cloud Pak for Data is really the platform, the EIP, as Bob said, that gives us the capability to do so. And at a high level, that's really providing us with the functionality that we need to successfully collect, to organize, to analyze our data, and then lastly, to be able to infuse it with all elements of AI. So I could really spend a whole day going through each of these different capabilities. As you could see, there's a ton listed here, but I just want to highlight some of the big ones. So when I say collect, I mean capabilities that make data simple and accessible. So that's data virtualization, and it's also the ability to spin up additional databases on the platform on demand. When I say organize, I mean creating a trusted, business-ready foundation of data, so things like cataloging and data transformations. And then when I say analyze, it's really helping us gain, as I said, further insights into the data with things like visualizations, dashboarding, and all the way to machine learning models. We have full functionality for the whole life cycle on that. But one of the things that I really just want to emphasize here, full picture, is that a big part of this approach that we take is we want, we see all elements of your analytics ecosystem to be critical and to be equal. Not one is no more or no less important than the rest. They're all equally as important. So that's why we like to paint this full picture. But with the Netezza in mind, today we're going to really focus further in on this collect piece. Thanks.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
So before I do that, though, I want to just zoom out a little bit and give you some more perspective on the holistic view of what we mean when we say IBM Cloud Packs. So we've organized them to map to different needs that your enterprise might have. So you can see Cloud Pak for Data as we're talking about, but there's also for integration, for applications, automation, and multi-cloud management. But basically the bulk of that is that we've organized them to the different needs. So they're all built on the common Red Hat OpenShift platform. As I said, Cloud Pak for Data is. And it's our commercial, modernized vehicle for consuming all IBM technology. So like Cloud Pak for Data, each has the same containerized technology, portable to all different cloud platforms or on-prem. It's just the new and modern way of the technology. Okay. So now we're going to dig a little bit more, as I said, into the collect piece of Cloud Pak for Data. And where we want to go from a Netezza perspective. So how this next generation Netezza that we're going to talk about combined with the Cloud Pak for Data technology really aligns with that strategy in the market that we mentioned before, where you want to go to AI, to modernization. So collect is centered around technology that allows us to store data, so repositories. And that means, you can see we have two sides here. On the left, we have open source repositories. So it's obviously big in the market that people are adopting more and more open source technology. There's a ton out there. And that also just becomes a process of really tethering them together, yes, but also making them work in tandem with what's on the right. So, more the legacy hybrid data management repositories, which have, yes, legacy, but have grown and evolved over time as we've really modernized. So, and as I said before, where we link those together is really where it creates the most value. They're both obviously very important. And one example that I want to just touch on to kind of explain this is Postgres. So not sure if all of you know this or not, but it was actually kind of like the great grandfather, we like to say, of Netezza. So it inherited its SQL dialect and interoperability with the outside world. And it really branched off, about 15 years ago, but it's remained really tightly entwined. There's a hard linkage from the left to the right. And that's just an example of, these two worlds are really connected, the open source and the legacy HCM repositories that I mentioned. And we really want to continue to strengthen the combination of both sides, both the open source and the more traditional maybe repositories. And we want to continue to evolve, to improve, and to really modernize the repositories. It's a huge part of that. So that's really kind of the overall collect piece that I mentioned and how we're going to tie that to Netezza. But I'm going to pass it over to Bob, and he's going to actually dive a little bit further into the Netezza Performance Server itself.
All right. Well, thanks, Jacqueline. And here we go. Well, the moment that you've all been waiting for, introducing the new Netezza Performance Server. So this is the true next generation of Netezza. It is 100% Netezza compatible. And I don't even like to use the word compatible because the reality is this is Netezza. It is the same code, the same experience. It's based on the existing Netezza platform software. What we did was we upgraded it from a 32-bit to 64-bit, and we've added NVMe flash array support. And you'll see that as we go and talk through this. It has cross-generational capability, just like you knew and loved with existing Netezza appliances, Mako and Striper, and the now no longer supported TwinFin series. You can mix and match the systems, and that includes the legacy systems. So if you have a Striper or a Mako, and you have a Netezza Performance Server, you can have some as development, some as production. They interoperate together because they are the same code base. It is still the same Netezza architecture that resulted in that existing blazing performance that you know and love. And now it's even supercharged with the NVMe solid state drives, flash arrays. So it's the same underlying architecture of FPGAs, and with improved FPGAs to even improve some of the I/O capabilities and the filtering capabilities that you know and love from the field programmable gate arrays. And it is still in that simple appliance form factor, but also provides some extensible, expandable capabilities that I'll touch on in a minute. One of the biggest differences is that it actually uses the IBM Cloud Pak for Data as the host. It uses containers off of that platform to replace the physical light hosts that we had on the previous generation of Netezza appliances. That's where some of the connective tissue is between the Enterprise Insight platform and the Netezza Performance Server. So rather than having two physical light hosts with a virtual IP that manage the environment, we now have a series of containers that provide more resiliency, easier restartability, and a overall better experience when accessing the Netezza server. From a user standpoint, you won't notice a difference. You won't notice a difference other than the sheer performance and speed, but it will have the same look and feel. And in fact, your users, as long as they're at version 7.1 client or above, will be able to use the same drivers connecting to the same tools. In terms of speed, and I'll talk about this again a little later, we're seeing some blazing improvement that you know and love and usually see on newer generations of Netezza. In this case, on a rack for rack compared to the Mako appliances, we're seeing about 3 times faster performance. In some cases, we're seeing even better. And you have the same deep third-party tool integration that you have today. On top of IBM technologies like Cognos and DataStage and their capabilities of integrating with Netezza, you also have the same integration with SAS, MicroStrategy, and the many others that are listing here. If it had an integration with Netezza in the past, it continues to do that today because it is Netezza. It is the same thing. In fact, as you may notice, the actual name of the server is Netezza Performance Server. The Netezza brand is truly back. So for existing Netezza customers, why would you upgrade to the Netezza Performance Server? I touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to bring up 4 key things. One is the absolute compatibility. Again, it is exactly Netezza, your SQL, your scripting, your stored procedures. There's no migration changes, only data and SQL movement. And in fact, I'm going to show you a little bit of a light demo to kind of show you how easy it is in case you forgot or need a little refresher. That cross-generation environment is key. In today's kind of uncertain environment where we are today, and everybody's going to be, watching budgets and how to do things, you do not need to sweep the floor and replace everything to use the Netezza Performance Server. You can leverage some of the existing hardware that you have, bring in a new Netezza Performance Server, and maybe your Mako becomes a QA box or a development box. They interoperate with each other. Same dialect, same drivers, same Netezza. In terms of performing, I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again, I'll probably mention it a 3rd time. A lightning fast performance for your Netezza workloads with no actual change in what you do today. Simply a significant improvement in our technology that can give you rack for rack 3 times performance. And right now, the Netezza Performance Server is available on-premise through our Cloud Pak for Data system that comes with the Netezza Performance Server add-on. And coming very soon, sooner than you may think, we will also have an offering on the public cloud, and not only the IBM Cloud. More information on that coming very soon. So a little bit more about the benefits and the architecture. So the Netezza environment still has the same database architecture, a series of a number of disks, this time solid state, that's spread across leveraged by various individual compute nodes, typically called SPUs or snippet processing units, to distribute the data across those disks and process it in a massively parallel processing fashion. What's a little bit different is about how we deliver that technology. So the system itself is delivered in a series of hardware components with the first part being called the starter bundle for the Cloud Pak for Data system. Include your networking components, your fabric, and your management switch. But then there is this base enclosure. This is actually a series of servers that for the Cloud Pak for Data component includes Red Hat OpenShift and that Enterprise Insight platform that sits on top. It also includes a series of containers, each one representing a host. So previously on Netezza appliances, you had 2 physical light Linux hosts that connected through a virtual IP and kind of and pointed to the active host at the time. If one of those hosts failed, the other one would pick up and take over at that time, but was inactive until then. Occasionally you would run into errors where the data might be out of sync. There was a heartbeat between the 2. It has its issues, but generally it was fairly solid. With the Cloud Pak for Data system and the movement of these hosts to containers, now the hosts are truly virtual, but they're also much more resilient. There are 3 containers, 1 host container and 2 inactive host containers that actually all read off of a single GPFS, IBM GPFS file system. That file system allows us to eliminate the need to produce a heartbeat and replicate the data back and forth between an active and passive hosts. What it also allows is that if a particular host container goes down, the next one simply comes up in a matter of seconds or minutes, and sometimes the time varies, and you're back up and running. You don't have to worry about poor replication across hosts. Plus, there's a third one in case issues happen. You don't have to worry about hardware failures in the individual host, and the actual servers that run are significantly more resilient than the previous systems in the Mako systems. Now, in addition to the base starter Cloud Pak for Data system, we also have what is needed is at a minimum is the Netezza Performance Server base +1 add-on. So what you're seeing here is a base, which is Cloud Pak for Data system, and then the +1, which is 1 additional fabric switch, which can handle a lot of enclosures, but a single enclosure set, which actually looks like 2 enclosures here. So it's a series of servers and disks that in this configuration allow for about 17 terabytes of disk available for database consumption. The data is compressed the same way that it is today. So you would get that same compression factor that you know and love. This is actually expandable. And one way we make this expandable is you have a couple choices. One, you can install this hardware in your own rack, or you can actually choose to have IBM provide their own rack like previously, and this would be installed in an IBM rack and placed on a tile. So this gives you flexibility. If you have space in your own data center and you'd like to put that in here, you can do it. If you want IBM to come in with a rack and do it, they can do it too. But unlike previous versions of Netezza, this environment is expandable. So if you start small, say with the 17 terabyte base +1 system, and you want to expand, you simply need to purchase an additional expansion enclosure. That enclosure will increase the amount of disk. Right now, it's about 17 terabytes per enclosure. In the future, we will have larger, more dense systems, but you can expand all the way up into what would be the equivalent of about an 8-rack system at this point. So you can get very big or stay very small, and you can expand in place in your own racks or in IBM's racks. From a lightning fast performance perspective, what we see here is you can see the full rack Mako on the left-hand side, which included 2 2U physical host servers and 7 SPUs. So the actual performance server includes 2 base enclosures that include the Cloud Pak for Data environment and also the host containers. And then 2, what they call 2U enclosures that is actually the equivalent of 8 blades. Now there are obviously performance differences between the Mako environment and the performance server environment. It's newer technology, faster technology, solid state NVMe drives. All that leads to a rack for rack performance of about 2 to 3 times faster, closer to about 3 times. We have seen much faster performance on some of the older, now unsupported twin fin and still remaining supported striper appliances. We see even better performance. If you go to place this into your own racks, from a hardware perspective, it's about 1/5 of the footprint of a full rack. So you can fit it into your own racks if you want to. Now, that's a lot of the information about the server itself. It is Netezza. It is the same thing, but it is blazingly faster than the previous generation, but it still has that exact same ease of use. How easy would you say? Let me show you how easy it is to migrate data from an existing Mako or striper appliance to the Netezza Performance Server. So right now we have 2 windows here. on the left is a window connected to a Netezza Performance Server. On the right is a window that's connected to a IBM PureData for Analytics or Netezza appliance. It can be either Mako or Striper. It's the exact same, they look the exact same way. And you can see here on the right that we've done an NZ-SQL getting the information from a database called BDI. So there's a series of tables here. And this customer just purchased the Netezza Performance Server, and they need to move this database over or copy it over into the MPS from the PDA system. You can see on the existing Netezza Performance Server, there is nothing but the simple demo and starting system databases. So how do we do this? For those of you that are existing Netezza customers, you may remember the NZ migrate command. Many of you may use it to migrate data between your Stripers and your Makos or from your twin fins over time. Some people have also used it as mechanisms to just move data between development, QA, and production. The same tools, the same technologies are here because, again, it is Netezza. We simply execute an NZ migrate command from the source database to the target database, from the source host to the target host. And in this case, we're asking it to create the database structure on the NPS system itself. After the process runs through, it goes over the wire, not landing data, creating the database and pulling the data over a table at the time, providing a whole bunch of detailed information about records processed, times to process the record, any issues that may be found. If there were users that were not created that the system was expecting would also be there. But the data is all moved over with one simple command. The time to run these moves varies. It depends on the actual speed of your network and the amount of data that you're actually moving over. The system itself, the Netezza Performance Server, while standard is usually 10 gigabit connections, the network connections on the Performance Server can support up to 25 gigabits a second, but generally 10 gigabits is what is enabled at this point right now, and that can be bonded. So now you can see the results. We checked, and now the database has been moved over. We see all the tables. We see the BDI database is available. It's all over there. But let's make sure that there's actually some of the same data in there. So we're going to check the counts of the table. When we run a check on the counts of the table, you can see that they're all identical. Everything has moved over with not a problem. Matching record counts and NPS. To put it simply, it is that easy, just as you remembered with your existing Netezza appliances. Now, a couple other things I want to note here. We want to make sure that if you choose to move to the Netezza Performance Server, we want to make sure that you have the comfort in using the new system and the guidance that you know and love from Netezza. So included with every Netezza Performance Cloud Pak for Data System with Netezza Performance Server purchase is the Netezza Performance Server, what we call the modernized package. And that includes several things. In addition to the traditional IBM installation of the Netezza Performance Server at your data center, we also include a configuration workshop. Typically, you may have heard something called NZ Launch. It's usually about a 1-day or 2 half-day session where we go through the actual ins and outs of the system. From a Netezza functionality standpoint, it will be similar to what you're used to today if you're an existing Netezza customer, but it will also include pieces that give you some of the different nuances, how to log into the host container, some of the ways to connect, some of the information on a newer and more comprehensive console that's available. That allows you to see history and queries similar to what you've seen in previous consoles. It will also show you how to get access into the Cloud Pak for Data software itself to take advantage of the other Insight platform capabilities. And also a key importance is that you will receive 3 months of remote guidance from a designated technical account manager. So this is really what I would consider the hand-holding that you can use for the first 3 months to help get yourself up and running. This is not a services engagement where you would have somebody actually come in and move the data for you. This is actually a dedicated resource to help support you with your questions, guidance on moving your workload to the Netezza Performance Server, Q&A, consultation on how to do things, and also help to get those answers inside of IBM that maybe you can't get with traditional support. Obviously, if you're looking to services to actually help perform the cutovers or any other type of testing or migration, I definitely would recommend TechD and Brad and his team. They do an excellent job and are very familiar with the Netezza Performance Server as with the Netezza legacy systems. So that is the Netezza Performance Server. Like I said, the true next generation Netezza. I personally am very excited about it. I myself was a customer of Netezza for almost 8 years before I joined IBM several years ago. I am very excited to see what is available now and what is the roadmap, and it is a robust roadmap. Netezza is not going anywhere. If anything, it is growing more and more. We're going to send out a PDF version of these slides, and it's going to include these links, including the main page for the Cloud Pak for Data System with the Netezza Performance Server. I just want to note that you may see, while we were working on some of the name updates, we recently renamed it Netezza Performance Server. There was an initial short period where it was called the IBM Performance Server for Postgres SQL. If you see that name, it is the Netezza Performance Server. I expect you to see that change within the next week or two, but just wanted you to be aware to avoid confusion. We also have the Cloud Pak for Data Hub, which I encourage you to view. There are a ton of videos, tutorials, the documentation for Cloud Pak for Data, and even a chance to get access to what's called the Cloud Pak for Data experience. It's a virtual access to a Cloud Pak for Data cluster. I will note that does not include the Netezza Performance Server, but it shows the other capabilities with some walkthroughs that you can take advantage of. And we also have the Cloud Pak for Data community. It is an area of blogs, articles, forums from users and with expert responses, and additional files and tips and tricks that you can use to get around the Cloud Pak for Data System and times the Netezza Performance Server. So we really have a great ecosystem going here, a great environment in not just a super powerful enterprise data warehouse, but we also have just everything that you need in a warehouse and an enterprise insight platform. And that's what I have right now. Brad, do we have any questions in the chat, or if we want to open it up for questions?
Yeah, great, Bob. Thank you. Jacqueline, thank you so much. If anyone does have any questions and you'd like to either post them in the chat, or we can try to raise your hand, I can try to give you access to the mic. Be happy to answer them the best of our ability right now. As Bob mentioned, while we queue up any questions, we'll be sending you a copy of the presentation, as well as the important links to help you learn more and share with your teams. TechD will be following up with you as well. We actually have our own Netezza Performance Server installed in our data center, and we are available for testing and demonstrations to show you really how easy it is to migrate to the latest version of Netezza, as well as take advantage of all the great applications and features in Cloud Pak for Data System that comes part of the package. So we're real excited to speak with you, and we will be following up. We do have one question, Bob, that just came in. Is there support for semi and or unstructured data?
So I was just about to, I was just answering that, but I will answer it here in audio. So the answer is yes. So the new Netezza Performance Server does include a native JSON object data type. So for semi-structured data, you can load JSON documents into it. It's similar to the JSON object data type that you would see in a traditional Postgres. Part of what the development team is doing is trying to take some of those additional features that have been built into Postgres over the years that didn't quite make it into Netezza Performance Server and adding them in. One of the first ones is the support for that data type. The traditional CLOB and blob capabilities are not there yet, other than what was existing in Netezza. But the JSON data type is there. I will note that the JSON data type is only supported when you use the latest drivers that come with the Netezza Performance Server. The JSON data type is not supported in the legacy Netezza NPS versions. So if you're going to do a cross-generation environment, just keep that in mind. The JSON support does not exist in the older Netezza systems, just in the Performance Server. But yes, it is there now.
Great, thanks. And as a follow-up, it says our catalog is huge, 125 gigabytes. Is there any relief coming in the Netezza Performance Server?
So typically the catalog, I mean, the size of the catalog, I'm not aware of any specific changes in terms of adjusting the catalog. Now the catalog itself all now sits on top of, all of the disk is solid state NVMe drives. So they're no longer spinning drives. So you will get a faster speed in accessing the catalogs, and your vacuums behind the scenes will actually run faster. But I will have to check with development to see if there were any optimizations or improvements in terms of specifics around the catalog.
Great. Okay. And there was one question earlier that came up, and it wasn't something we covered in this topic today, but wanted to see if maybe you had some insight. Is there a conversion or a migration path from a PureData system for operational analytics as part of the Netezza offering?
So we do have, now I'm trying to think if we have it from that way. I will need to check. The PureData system for operational analytics is based on the DB2 engine. So a conversion from that point would be similar to a conversion from DB2 to Netezza. There is recently, in the past year, inside of DB2 infrastructure, there has been a significant amount of Netezza data type compatibility that has been input. There's not a simple tool like the NZ migrate to move that over. It would probably involve some services. But what I can do, Brad, is I can follow up with the DB2 team and the Netezza Performance Server team just to see if there's anything that I'm missing on that standpoint. And then I can let everybody know. How's that sound?
That sounds like a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's great. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions. So again, everyone, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. TechD, IBM, we're excited about this new platform, this reinvigoration and relaunch of Netezza, and we'll be in touch. Can't wait to show you more and continue on the journey to AI. So thank you again. Everybody stay safe and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.